What's the most disturbing thing you did as a child? I loved Spider-Man and decided I wanted to have superhero powers too. So I took a metal hanger, twisted it and stuck in the electric socket. The zap I got made me drop it right away. But several days later, I thought maybe I just need to hold on longer, and so I tried it again. Mom caught me the second time and seemed very upset at the prospect of having a superhero for a son. So I didn't try it again. Too long didn't read, watched my family breakdown and think I was taken. I remember being in one of those hollow tubes that connect playground sections and deciding it was a good spot for a nap, but was so amped to be at the park I couldn't fall asleep. There were holes in the sides of the tube, like tiny windows. At some point I realized my parents were looking for me and calling my name. I DIY, but I decided it'd be a worth experiment to just sit back and watch my family, then neighbors, then neighborhood in utter panic thinking I'd been kidnapped. I just laid there, listening, sometimes watching through the side holes. When I was 10 and felt like I was being mistreated by stepmother, I would find small holes in her pantyhose or underwear while I was hanging out the washing and rip them bigger. I also keyed her car along the base of the driver door. I got angry with my sister and put hair removal on her pillow. Thankfully she smelled it first before putting her head on the pillow. I was severely punished for this disturbing action. Microwaved a dead frog in an attempt to cremate it. When I was 8, it exploded. Unsurprisingly, I went to college for mortuary science funeral service, which I did not complete. Oh my god. The smell, the blood, the horror. Did your parents just buy a new microwave? Oh, they didn't know of this adventure for years. When I did mention it to my mom, she laughed until she realized it was our microwave that had been utilized. She got over it though, we continued to use it for years. Tried making fireworks out of toy plastic Easter eggs and WD-40. It blew up in my face and burned my hair, eyebrows and eyelashes on one side of my face. I didn't get hurt and didn't notice I was missing any hair till I left the woods, and when I got home my mom started screaming what the duck when she seen me. Stapled my own hand in grade 5 so I could get sent to the nurse to get out of class. I stapled my own finger at home to see what would happen. Well, it hurt and I had to pull it out again. Sometime later I put my finger into one of those car cigarette lighters while it was turned on while I was waiting for my mother to come back from buying groceries. I really burned my finger, and when she came back she asked why it's smelling so burnt in here. When I was 5 years old in preschool, I was sitting next to a girl I didn't like during a movie. The lights were off and we were all huddled around. I don't know how I even thought of this, but I bit myself in the arm and screamed saying she bit me. The other little girl was put in timeout and I thought I was in the clear until the teacher's assistant told the teacher what actually happened. When my mom picked me up that afternoon, my teacher told her what happened and they legitimately thought I was a psychopath. Joined Yahoo or AOL chats and everyone was like ASL. Then they'd send naked pics. Happened 3 times in a row. I thought that was themselves and I should share my pics back. So I 12 took pics of my own peen and send it out to every person who showed me this first. Eventually, I caught on that those were porn stars. Actually, up till that point, when someone saw boobs and they said fake, I thought they meant like CGI or animated, not silicone. So the thought that porno was real naked women, completely new to me. So here I am, chatting with someone who's sending me some porn star named Gage, I think, whom I thought was a 16-year-old girl, and I'm sending pics of my wee-wee back. My wife is the only person I've ever told this until now, lol. When I was 8 or 9 I made a slingshot and went up on our second story and saw this 4-year-old walking, so I hit him with it. I never told anyone about it and I still feel guilty for doing that. I don't know if this is really disturbing, but my friends and I, when we were like 7 or 8, used to have this fortress we built in these massive bushes up against the front of my house. Was pretty cool because it was like a maze in there. Where it all fell apart was we decided it was okay to have a pee corner since we couldn't be bothered to go up into the house. This lasted about a week before my mom figured it out and yelled at us to stop. How'd she figure it out? We were peeing directly below their bedroom window and they were trying to figure out where the constant stench of piss was coming from. Welp. I caught a frog and put it in my pocket. My dad took me next door to meet the new neighbors, and instead of talking like a normal child I talked like it at 4 years old and asked the neighbor in my creepy alien voice, do you wanna see my frog? They all laughed at me because I was a cute little curly haired weirdo and said sure. So I pulled this dead ass frog out of the depths of my pocket and proceeded to pet it, menacingly, and with a lot of pressure. My dad was so embarrassed and we never spoke to the neighbors again. He has also told every boyfriend I have ever had that story. When my siblings would have small coughs or something along the line, I somehow always managed to convince them they were either gonna die or were very sick. Not sure how I didn't get in trouble for this, but I kinda think they were just silently expecting to die for a while. Anyways, they didn't trust me all that much when it came to medical stuff for a while, and I still feel guilty years after. I convinced my youngest sister that she was adopted and her real parents were really rich and were coming by at 6 PM to take her away. I helped her pack a suitcase and said not to tell anyone or else they wouldn't come. I told her she could have a horse and live in a big house and not have to share a room. My mother noticed the suitcase and was very pissed at me. My sister and I would shit in jars and store them around the house. We wanted to be scientists and we called them our specimens. Mom found a jar one day, it was really old, she stuck her hand in it to smell. Then she let out a loud horrific scream once she solved the mystery puzzle. Not me, but my 5-year-old son. We had a small 5-step stair leading up to the front door. We also had a 2-meter long rope with couple of knots for him. Today I learned climb up the sides of the stairs. One day we heard crying outside. He was laying on the ground holding his hands across his neck. He told us he had tried to see if he was able to jump from the stairs with the rope tied to his neck, just to see if he could hang and angle there. He had no notion of what being hanged or strangled was. What the heck happened after that? Well, the rope had come loose from his knot, or he hadn't been able to tie a reasonable knot. But after that, the rope was dismantled, of course. When my mom's friend came over, I would sit in his lap and stroke his hairy arms like a cat. Nothing sexual about it. I was 7. My dad has a disorder that made all his hair fall out, so seeing hairy arms was fascinating to me. I look back at it and cringe, especially since I still know this person in my 20s. I evidently had a rare tantrum when I was 4 and beat the shit out of a kid my mom was babysitting with a wooden toy hammer. I think about my poor mother having to explain to the kid's mother how I wasn't really a psychopath when her kid looked like he had been in a British bar brawl. I once got lice as a kid, and after 2 hair treatments the duckers still weren't gone. Child me didn't want to have to go through the hair treatment again, so I just sat in bed meticulously going through my hair, pulling louse after louse out one by one and squishing them as well as the eggs on my roots until there were none left. It worked, but duck, it was weird and gross. Actually, that was a smart thing to do. Those lice treatments don't work that great. The best way to get rid of lice is to keep combing going through the hair on a daily basis. Ask me how I know, lol. Lice treatments don't work that great. Entomologist here. The problem is adults are now insecticide resistant and the eggs survive most treatments. However, adults will die from surfactant soaps. So get the cheapest shampoo you can. Lather it into the hair, dry thickly, and then comb it out. However, this is where most people duck it up. They will appear to be gone, but some eggs will be left behind. They will hatch in low numbers and persist for 17 days unnoticed, when they will start mating and laying many eggs. So to break this cycle you need to lather and use the lice comb on day 1, and again between day 10-16 at a minimum. This way the eggs all hatch, but don't get a chance to breed. However, if you miss one pregnant female the whole cycle can start again, so you have to be thorough. When I was in 4th grade, my crush had jokingly threw my binder on the ground, which caused it to open up and release all my papers into the wind. I vowed to her that I would get my revenge. The next day, I brought a small steak knife to school. I had it in my backpack and somewhat forgot about it until after school when my crush, her younger sister, and myself were on the playground. I showed them both the knife. had them feel it, so they knew it was real, and then told them I was going to kill them with it. I chased them around the playground, which was very busy with other kids and parents and all. Although I had absolutely no intention of hurting anyone in any way. Her sister told her dad, who told the school, who told my parents, and yeah, I never ever did anything like that again, and I'm still not sure to this day why I seriously thought that was a good idea. It's a memory I cringe to when it pops up in my head. I'm still not sure to this day why I seriously thought that was a good idea. Kids are insane compared to adults. Brain still has a lot of developing to do. Consequences. Our model of reality and how it works is impressively flawed and incomplete, as children might have thought that it wasn't that big of a deal because you knew you weren't going to hurt them. Being able to see a situation accurately from the perspective of another person is something we get better at over time. They'll be scared, but then I'll say it's a joke and we'll all laugh or something like that. Or not even that. Just a whim that comes up without sufficient mental safeguard saying no, don't do that, it's a bad idea. I watched a magician on TV. You know the don't try this at home thing. I saw that, knew it was a thing, and then did the thing anyway. I did the thing hard, convinced another kid to get in a box, and then stabbed the box with knitting needles deeply. Luckily I didn't hit them. It worked. So I got a big knife, and that kid and I took the show next door to the neighbors. We were in business. Luckily, when I stabbed the big knife up to the hilt from multiple sides, it missed them. The neighbors gave us both a piece of fruit as payment and there were no negative consequences. I realized later that day what could have happened, and never did it again. Neighbors should have stopped it when the kid got in the box and I got out the knife. But some people are frozen by things like that and don't realize they should be leaping into action until the moment has passed. That what's happening isn't a wholesome magic trick, and that the two kids performing it with the real knife have absolutely no ducking idea what they are doing. That was my first and only magic trick. Why didn't I realize it was obviously a bad idea? I was a kid, and that means a certain level of insanity, a mismatch between what we think and how it is and will likely be. We'd been making documents look older in school by rubbing tea bags on them and singeing the edges. It was fun. Walking home I decided to make the posters in the church notice board look old as well. Apparently old, sun-bleached paper and an old thin wooden cabinet burn very fast and very well. When I was like 11 or 12, had recently gone through some significant abuse. I secretly decided I wanted to be a serial killer when I grew up, so I could kill the people that hurt me with experience in how to do it well. I'd heard of the McDonald triad by then, and even though I did burn things as a small child, I never wet the bed or killed any small animals. I couldn't exactly make myself wet the bed in my sleep, but I realized I could start killing small animals. So, one day I stole a baby bird from its nest and held a razor blade to its throat. Then I realized, even if I went through with it, I'd only be doing it for performative reasons, and that if I was gonna be a serial killer, then murdering it didn't actually make any difference. So I just put the baby bird back and went on about my day. I learned a severely important lesson about firearm safety at about the age of 5 with a Nerf blaster. It was a magazine-fed rifle-style weapon. We had been instructed not to shoot the Nerf darts at any of us who weren't actively participating in a Nerf war willingly. I was trying to get my brother to play along with some game I had made up, and I figured I would coerce him by pointing a Nerf gun at him. But I didn't want to actually shoot him because I saw that as rude. So I took the magazine out. He wouldn't listen to me. So being a petty kid, I tried to spook him further by starting to pull the trigger. Well, the blaster launched a dart that hit him square in the forehead. He started crying. Lesson learned. Treat every projectile, weapon or even toy as if it is loaded and hot, even if you think it's not. This happens a lot, even with people who use firearms daily. They work the slide to eject the bullet, then drop the mag. Doing it that order keeps one in the chamber, but you think it's unloaded. As you pointed out, even if you know for an absolute fact, recognize you're a human being who is capable of making mistakes. You'd rather leave the bullet in the chamber by mistake and play it safe than make the mistake of putting that bullet in someone's head for no other reason than I made sure it was unloaded. My dad didn't check the slide one time and ended up firing in his bedroom. Both him and I are very much victims of idle hands. He likes to drop the mag and just fidget with his gun, usually field stripping it over and over. He got careless and fired off a round. Fortunately no one was hurt as he and I were the only ones home at the time and our dogs were in the backyard barking at squirrels. My dad was teaching night classes for a while, and for reasons I have either forgotten or was not privy to, I would spend his class time sitting in the back of the room instead of hanging at home with one of those briefcase-sized portable BWTVs. One night, there was a news report about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of whom I was a huge fan. The news report, I found out many years later, was about a controversy centered around a TMNT puzzle that featured graffiti. One of the graffiti pieces was, what I later learned, a swastika. I was way too young to know what it was or what it represented. Just for the record, the report said it was used as a nation symbol for peace or something like that, which I was a fan of, and I had already been drawing the intro for the Turtles arcade game on the chalkboard in the back of the classroom. Welp, seeing this report, I figure I should add the Turtles approved peace symbol to my magnificent artwork. So I did. It must have been a foot high. My dad immediately put the class on a 10-minute break and erases my hard work. He's super pissed, obviously, but doesn't say why. I find out many years later what the issue was. He brought it up in an argument with my mom enough years later I could understand what was going on. I was never told what I did wrong, they never did. Just let me know I did something wrong. Please, don't just punish your kids. Explain to your kids what the problem is. Obviously, I learned the significance of it years later and how wrong it is. All I knew then was it seemed like a cool design and it was turtle approved. When I was 7-8 we were staying at my dad's friend's house for the weekend and he had a son my age. I was in a doucheback bully phase in school and I loved pocket knives. They had a nice swinging chair in the living room which I enjoyed the first evening. Well, the next morning only the son and I was up early and he was in the swinging chair. I wanted to have a turn, but he wouldn't let me because I had it the evening before. So I took out my pocket knife and threatened to cut off his fingers if he wouldn't let me sit in the chair. Of course the son told his dad and he got real mad at my dad. They never spoke to each other again and I got my ass whopped for a solid hour after we got home. Fun times. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.